I want to talk about the #1 food plot ingredient. And I had a video a few years ago, and a lot of people click on it. I talk about the #1 food plot ingredient being lime. Because if you don't correct your pH, then the plants can't take up the nutrients. That's a traditional way of correcting the pH. The reason you do that is it doesn't matter how much fertilizer you put down in the ground, the plants can't take that up and grow if the pH isn't there. Now we use Plot Boost, Plot Start. Plot Start is a great product because that takes the place of changing the pH, allows the plants to uptake the nutrients without changing the pH. So we do that. We do lime too. We do a combination. Plot Start's a good base to that. That's what we use. Plot Boost after it's growing. Bottom line though, if you don't change the soil, change the biology of the soil like the Plot Start does, the plants can't take up the nutrients, and you can throw all the fertilizers you want on there, and if they can't take it up, you're just wasting the money. So that's why ultimately, of course, you have to choose the right seed for the right conditions, the right planting time. You have to get moisture, have to get full sun to any food plot. Don't believe the shady food plot stuff, or we'd have a shady food plot product. But bottom line is, there's a lot you can do right, but there's one thing you can do very, very wrong. And really, it almost replaces that lime Plot Start as being the #1 ingredient, because this spot, for example, right here, perfect spot for a clover. This nice clover strip right here. We have a 2-acre food plot behind Dillon. We have about 1/3 of an acre food plot at the end of this strip over here that represents a hunting plot. This is more gun season, holding plot, get the deer here, hold them till dark, send them out to the ag fields. Critical plot for hunting off to the side. You can bet every big buck that comes out to this will eventually be out here and give us a shot from the blind that's at the end of there. We have great approach over there. We can get in and out. It's a smaller food source. That means not as many deer, so not as many eyes, ears, noses to get in and out of that blind. That's why it's a hunting plot. Deer on the way or coming from this big holding plot right here, big difference. So this right here is a perfect spot for clover in our perennial blend. We have our perennial plot power. Perfect spot for it because we can mow it, manicure it. We can correct the soil, put the right fertilization on. We can address it with Plot Start. When the plants come growing, you can put Plot Boost on it. We can address it with lime to change pH. We can plant it at the right time. In fact, we just got rain a little bit last week. We got a little bit of rain on Sunday. We got a little bit of rain yesterday. So we've had a couple rains in the last 8 days. We could really use a rain today, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Right product, right seed variety and blend for this location. We want this to grow so it's in time for fall. Got one main problem. Doesn't matter how much we've corrected the soil, how much we've fertilized, how much we've limed, how much Plot Start, Plot Boost we throw on here. We got really, really bad weeds that have come up on this side. So when we had this screening blend right here, we had a lot of weeds coming up in it. We couldn't take care of our weeds because this was growing on it all last fall. Was holding here last fall. We can't put a sprayer through here. You can see we didn't disc this up or tilt it up. We mowed it. We've sprayed it. The problem is all this debris and these stalks hold a lot of that weed growth down below. The chemical doesn't penetrate it, and now we have weeds coming up. You can see a huge difference over here where we have clover waiting to grow. When you get over onto this side, you can tell how much rain we've had. See how cracked the soil is right here. But no weeds here because it was completely exposed to the chemicals. And then we have weeds right up here. Folks, you have to take care of your weeds. You have to. We put clover in here, we get these weeds. One of these weeds is pigweed, really bad. We have a variety of weeds coming in here. I see some burdock leaves starting to come in. We probably have giant thistle. These stalks kept the weeds from being fully showing and emerged. Once wind and rain blow the stalks around, and it exposes weed growth. And that's what's happening on this side versus this side, because we've done everything else the same. That's why there's weeds here and not over there. Now, if we came in here, the other option is we could have tilled this 3 to 4 times by now. We till it in April, end of April, as soon as it's dry enough to get in here and till it again in May, till it again in June, which would be right about now. What we have done is expose these weed seeds, then they germinate. Then we come in here, till it. Once the growth of weeds has taken place, and we till it again. The only problem is, we get into a place like this, we can suffer from severe erosion. You can actually see the ditch in the woods there that goes right down to the bottom, like a half mile away. And all this runoff from the fields comes through here. You can actually see the little ravines that are coming down here right now that are starting to feed this ditch. Right in through here. If we had disked this up and tilled it up, this would be a washout in this location. We have a giant bank of switchgrass right here that's allowing us to keep and maintain and keep from this eroding out completely right here until something's growing on here. Now in the future, we'll have clover through here. We won't have to worry about that erosion at all. But you can bet if we tilled and tilled and tilled, and you're just setting back those weeds, these weeds are always going to come back. It's just a temporary fix. Then we're exposing this to major erosion, and we probably lose our field. This is our access right here. The edge of our property is right over there. I like pulling deer to the edge of a property like this so we can maximize our depth back in there to have plenty of does, fawns, bucks. We layer them, layer the bedding. We hold them here until dark and then send them out to the ag fields. We can get around them in the woods to get out, in and out different locations. We can determine where they're at that way. Whether we use chemicals and take care of these weeds, or we continually till, maybe your ground's flat and you can get away with that. We have to take care of the weeds. Now the problem is, we get weeds in here. Don't ever believe any of the talk sometimes online where people say weeds in food plots are a good thing. They are horrible, horrible. Because these weeds are all dead. Pigweed doesn't offer value. Goldenrod might be a marginal, ragweed might be a marginal summer food source, even a good summer food source. It's not there during the fall. So what happens, folks, is when that food is not available in September, October, November, December, January, you lose that volume in your food plots. Those weeds suppress your actual food plot blend and seed from growing. You lack volume. And I can guarantee if we allow these weeds to come in and compete with this clover that's going to come in once we get some decent rain, these weeds will take likely 80% to 95% of all nutrients, all volume. It will have clover going through here, but it's going to be at a level of about 5, 10, 15% of what we would have otherwise had by not taking care of the weeds. So when it really matters, like there's food everywhere here during the summertime. Yeah, maybe they hit a food plot more during the summertime because they have a little ragweed, goldenrod, some bits of alfalfa, some clover. Weeds that they actually enjoy eating. Might even be some briars coming up or some early successional growth of trees and shrubs. You know, a naturalist is looking at, wow, this is a bonanza of wildlife food. But it doesn't matter what's here in the summertime. We can only build a herd, hunt a herd, actually promote bucks to the next age class, mold and shape the herd, and actually have a good hunt and do a good job for the deer herd during the fall. And so when these weeds are here during the summertime, what do we have to do with this field? We have to kill it. I don't care if I have seed on the ground. When I see this starting to come because we've had recent rains in the last week, and we have this kind of weed growth here, you can, even right up here, you see this pigweed that's popped right here. And you get back into here, there are areas that are just completely full of weeds in here. We have to get rid of it because with these weeds here, I'm not going to have any type of food plot when it actually matters, because it doesn't matter during the summertime what your food plots are. It only matters during the fall. These weeds will basically kill the food plot, then they die. So even if they were attractive to deer, which they aren't, then there's not going to be any attraction during the fall anyways because they all die, and you're left with little to no actual intended food plot. So unfortunately, because we still have seed here, but because of the weeds that are growing in this section, which is like 400 yards long, 350 yards long, somewhere around there of this screening, then we have to come back here. I have to kill at least this 12-foot wide strip. You can see right from the edge right up here all the way down to about right in here. I need to kill times 350 yards. I don't like doing it, but I don't want to rip up the ground because then when we do get rain, well, it'll wash off. So we're left to kill it, and that's your number one food plot ingredient, food plot practice, food plot strategy, is to get the weeds out of your food plots for a successful food plot this fall and beyond. Folks, you have to do it. And I'm not a big fan of drying out the soil, ripping up the top layer of soil, repeatedly tilling. And if you think you're going to no-till drill through soil, if you want to use rye, we use rye every year. We use buckwheat. Those are the two major number one weed suppressors, buckwheat during the summertime. But if we put buckwheat here it's going to have a hard time competing with all these weeds too, and it's the #1 smother crop. Rye is right behind buckwheat in its smother crop ability, and even has a natural ability to fight off weeds and overtake weeds, but it won't when you have this many weeds here. You can't do this naturally. You can't do this with rotations, just trust me. Been experimenting and planting food plots for almost 30 years at a very high level, writing about it, publishing my findings, books, magazine articles, speaking engagements for many, many years. Now have a food plot seed company. So just take it from decades of experience. You have to get rid of these weeds first, and then you can have a food plot. I guess I failed in this area this year, but this is a new one right here with all this garbage right here, and then those weeds coming in underneath and allowing these weeds to come in. And you can bet we won't make that mistake twice, but take it from experience and my failures to help your success this fall. Hey folks, I really appreciate you watching, and I want to invite you to check out our main website, whitetailhabitatsolutions.com. I'm going to miss all these, but we have seed to offer, hats, articles, web classes, books, consultations, and even a new podcast. I think we have 17 podcasts out there right now for you to listen to. So we have a lot to offer. Most of all, if you don't want to buy anything, I'm going to keep offering free videos, free articles. We have over 600 articles on the site. And most of all, thank you very much for watching, reading, listening, being a part of Whitetail Habitat Solutions. If you want to check this stuff out, awesome. Links are in the description.